Hey guys, want to check out my new project? This is a 1959 Grundig Majestic model SO141Ua. As you can see, this thing is big. It's really big. And it was a little bit tough to get it into my shop. You've seen a part of this before. This is the record changer I did a demo on a couple of months ago, a 4-speed Grundig record changer. And it was a pretty nice machine. I really enjoyed working on it, and it works really well. This was actually a pretty modern machine for its time. This horizontal square look was going to become very popular all through the 60s, but this was a fairly early iteration of that look. As you can see, this one's a stereo unit, and it has your typical German dial face with the push button on, off, and band selection, and the big slide rule dial with the large knobs, one at each end of the slide rule. It's got a real nice look. Here's where the record changer sits, and it looks real nice in there too. When I received this thing, the tone arm was sitting over on the platter like so. It had come off of the rest and had been bouncing around on the platter. And I sure hope it didn't do any damage to that nice cartridge that I put in, but if it did, I can replace it. I'll have to check it out. When these things are transported, the tone arm should be pushed down onto the detent lock like so. That way it doesn't lift up and it can't bounce around like that. But we'll check it out. And over here is where a tape recorder would sit. And I think this one actually had a tape recorder at some time, because that plate is not original. It had side-firing oval treble speakers, and they're fairly small, but they don't sound bad. When it's all put together in the cavities of this cabinet, it sounds pretty good. So let's get started. Alright guys, what you see in front of you right there is a Grundig that I'm going to be working on for a customer in the next couple weeks. I'm going to be starting this. They need to have it by the end of March, but I have some other customers that are waiting on their radios too. So this one is kind of a break-in to the queue, but it can't be a serious break-in because other customers have been waiting. And with wifey being ill, I haven't been able to put the time to the radios that I normally do. So I'm going to show you I'll give you a real quick walk-around tour of this radio, and then I'm going to get to work taking it apart. So what I really have to do here is take the radio out of the cabinet, and the speakers as well, because I can't store this cabinet. This cabinet is in too nice a condition. If something happens to it, y'all know how many radios I have around here and what little storage I have. I just can't keep it around. If something happens to it, I wind up paying for it, and I just can't do that. So here's the radio, the dial, very pretty dial, very typical German. We all know what these look like. Let's go around the back side of this real quick. I'm doing a real quick tour because I want to get to work. I have very limited time today to get this done. So I've got to remove this back cover, as you can see. All this back cover work. There will be an antenna I've got to get out of there. It's probably a big loop antenna that's around the inside of the cabinet. There will be a whole bunch of cables and stuff attached to it. I'm hoping that this thing drops out easily, but let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing set up to start taking it apart, and then I'll just throw the video on and I'll edit out what I don't want on the video. This little plug connector goes on the right hand. Obviously it won't fit in the left hand, so that is for the antenna. For this left hand cover panel, there are 12 little flathead wood screws. Oh, I like these. You just loosen these little cover slotted brackets. Once they're loose, they slide back, they withdraw out of the way, and you can imagine just pull this cover right out. This cover, there's an interlock here. These are soldered on there, isn't that sweet? Alright, I'm glad there's plenty of lead length here. So, okay. Thankfully, I don't need to remove the record changer because I've already worked on that. And unless they damage that cartridge, that stylus in transport, it should be fine. And it sounded really pretty good, except that it wouldn't play on one channel unless you screwed with the balance. I think what I'm going to find is a whole lot of dirty pots. This thing was so noisy. The right-hand speaker works because when I reverse the leads, the right-hand speaker worked. It's all coming from the noisy pot, because when I messed around with the pot, it seemed to come and go. And that would be the best of all the situations I could imagine. I'm going to do a capacitor restore on this anyway. Alright, all the back covers are off. Okay, speaker connector. Okay, the speaker connector goes off to, there's a crossover here. Goes to a crossover, which then feeds the speakers. I'm going to want to keep all of this together if I possibly can. So let's just disconnect the speaker connector right now. There were 15 screws on this left side. So I'm going to refer to left and right as if I'm looking at it from the front. I learned that from my old car days. Boy, I sound grouchy today. Sorry guys. I've given up Diet Coke. I've already given up candy corn. I don't know how many more vices a guy is expected to give up. So if I'm a little bit on edge in some of my videos coming up, I'm going to ask you to forgive me. Diet Coke and candy corns are they're two food groups of the, say, 5 or 6 really important food groups as far as I'm concerned. The speaker wires go through a hole so that you cannot get them out without cutting something. Whether you cut a wire or you have to cut something to make it work. So, what am I going to cut? What's the least intrusive thing to cut? Probably the most easily identified are these speaker cables, and then I will make connectors, which is what the damn designers and builders should have done back in the day, is put connectors on these so that you could get this back together. German engineering is overrated, as you know. That's how I feel. When I have this on my bench, I'll have to I'll put some quick disconnect connectors here. Alright, so for now, John in Arkansas will probably love this. Cut one. Never cut them the same. If you cut them offset, well then when you put them all together, there's not a big hump in the middle. Okay, some of these are a real bugger. I've taken apart a Cuba speaker, or console that was a real pain. This one so far has not been bad, but I have seen some really tough ones. Okay, so here is the speaker connector, or speaker cable. I'll be very careful with that. I've got all these paper tabs. I can deal with those later. Let's see, I want to get the chassis all disconnected and removed before I worry about other stuff. So let's go ahead and pull this interlock connector so I don't have to cut any cables there. All late 50s stuff, all 50s stuff have these little 2-conductor interlocks so that you can't open the back of the cabinet and zap yourself with it powered up. But, you know, then you just have cheater cables that you use anyway. So it must have been so kids can't do it. I don't know. It's really important when you work on a complex one especially to label everything, man. I mean everything. There's a little 4 terminal block here, okay, right here to the left. You probably can't see it. It sits right behind where this spring goes for the radio dial cover, okay. This 4 terminal block, it leads to this 4-into-2 wire connector right here, this little terminal strip. Okay, now this thing, this terminal strip, oh, I guess this plugs onto the radio in the back, and that's very cool. Okay, good, that helps. That terminal strip leads to these, there's 4-wire cable that comes up here. 2 of those go to this 4-way block right here on top of this shiny can. The other 2 go over here, look like signal cable to the record changer. I'm just going to leave the record changer power connector disconnected over here. Alright, so I'll just leave that sit there. I don't need to horse with that, because that is record changer power. I don't need to horse with this one cable here. In fact, I'm not going to horse with any of these. I'm going to leave all this in place because the record changer is staying in place. FM and AM antennas can leave connected up to the back. It looks like there's some kind of a little loading coil in this AM. That's really cool. Alright, so I think I have everything disconnected from this chassis. So now I have to figure out how the hell to get the chassis out of here. There's a bracket on either side, and this one is missing a nut on the top side. Okay, so it looks like only the bottom one is designed to hold that in there. First I have to get those knobs out and see what I have going on the top side. If you don't have one of these hydraulic tables, you're missing out. The cool thing about German radios is that this whole thing will come out as a unit. There's nothing, it doesn't look like there's going to be anything holding it in. Everything just sort of slips out. The problem is it's in vertical, it's in facing up, so I have to be really careful because these front panels, although sometimes you can get them, they're like made of unobtainium. So you have to be real careful not to break them. So we'll raise it back up. There we go. Okay, so now I think I'm going to look like 13 millimeter. Where the Japanese love the 12 millimeter stuff, you know, the even numbers, the Germans love the odd numbers. All of my Volkswagens and so forth used a lot of 13 millimeter, a lot of 15 millimeter. Alright, that looks more like an 11 than 13. I'm getting rusty, man. Okay, so this came loose really easy. I think because this chassis rests on a couple of screws that are in there. So it's secured in place with this nut, but the nut wasn't real tight. It looks like a special nut with a flange on it. So this is kind of a funky nut with a captive washer on it that makes a flange. So I want to hold on to that. I'm sure I could do it with a washer, but this does make it easy when I'm installing it. Let's see if this one is loose. Yeah, very peculiar. So I think the weight of the chassis does not rest on these. And that makes sense, they're slotted, so vibration would eventually cause the chassis to drop down, to sink down. There are these big screws that are put in there on the brackets, used as stops, I think. Okay, so these are chassis mounting nuts. There are 2 of them. If you don't put the name of the radio on here that these are for, and if you ever drop one of these and then you don't know that you dropped it and then you're looking for it, I've been there, that's how I know. Then you're trying to figure out what the heck radio that went with. It's so much easier just to write radio down as I do it. Let's see here. Well, okay. Thanks. Terrific. There's a push button assembly. that sits up on top. There's a little block here. This thin wire that comes from that push button that sits up in the cabinet. This wire has a red lead that goes to the left, a black lead goes to the right, and there is a ground lead or ground strap that goes in the center. Okay. I hate to do this. I don't like to cut wires, but so far I haven't had to cut many. And I just want to, such a limited amount of time here. You know what I should do. See now, okay, so now I've got that nice and clean, so when I go ahead and redo it, when I go ahead and reinstall it, I'll be able to do that nicely without cutting any wire off. It's real fine wire and it's a pain to cut and strip anyway, damn it. Okay, I think I have everything disconnected. And it's going to be a real pain in the butt getting this thing back in, I'll tell you. When I reassemble this, I think the prudent thing to do would be to reassemble it with it laying on its face. What I mean is, put some nice blankets down so I don't damage the wood and lay it face down, and then I'm not fighting gravity. Because when I put this back in, they're really fun when you're putting them back in. Hard enough getting them out. I cuss a lot when I'm working and I'm holding my tongue because I'm on video. Normally I'd be calling this all kinds of names by now. It's just the way it is. Oh, you son of a bitch. Oh. German shit. That light's more a pain in the ass than it is anything. Gotta be real careful not to break the glass in these damn things. They're really fragile. It's one of the things I don't like about the German ones. Just if they made a couple of simple little design changes, they would be so much nicer to work on. Oh my God, what a pain. Look at this chassis. You got crap hanging out everywhere. This is really fragile. You got this stuff sticking out here, stuff all over here. There's just not there's really fine wires everywhere. This one is better than most. I'm telling you that Kuba, I'll show you pictures of that Kuba. It would drive you nuts. But anyway, chassis is out. There's the underside. It's not terrible. It won't be too bad. I already see one capacitor that is leaking like crazy, so it's a good thing we're doing this, because if she played this for long, it would not have been doing well. I'm thinking, do I want to get that tone switch? I don't think so. It's just a switch. It's just a push button. There's no cats in that thing. And when I put this back together, I'll spray that with a little deoxit. Okay, I'm going to pull these chassis washers out because I think I need to replace those. They're pretty hard. So I was wrong about the side firing speakers. There are side firing speakers, but they're not horns. The Cuba has horns, and a lot of the tabletop Grundigs have horns. Nice little crossover on these buggers. Okay, let me give you a look at what's inside here. So there's the speaker arrangement. This is that crossover. Crossover mounts up here like that. There's some cables. There is that 4-terminal, what looked like for maybe another record player setup. There's the record player power. I'm going to leave that in the chassis, in the cabinet. All right, there is that 2-in-1 terminal strip that I was talking about, and going off in these cables here. The one goes up to the record changer. There's how the speakers look on the left side of the cabinet. A little bit tighter space there. All right. Up here there would maybe have been a reel-to-reel recorder. This is where the chassis mounts in here. Okay, there's that. This is the door here. Okay. There's the mechanism for the door. Spring and a cable. And up there is that voice and music switch that I had to desolder the terminals for. Okay, that's the one I desoldered. There's the four-way block, the 2-into-4 terminal strip. Okay, record changer, and then that goes off to the record changer. So these here connect up to that can on the back side of the chassis. Okay. Okay, the felt on that is pretty good. I don't think I'm going to need to mess around in there. I've already done that record changer. Okay. I'll go ahead and stop this. You see, all I have to do is remove those two speakers. They're connected together. They connect to this crossover, which connects to that wire there. So I can remove all of this in one shot. Same with this side over here, all of this in one shot. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'm done with this cabinet. I can send it back to him. Okay, here's the right side with the speakers removed. And here is that grill that goes in the right side. Plastic grill. So, all right, let's work on the left side now. Okay, I thought I'd do a little inventory of what I pulled from that Grundig since I don't have the cabinet here anymore. They came and got it a few minutes ago. Here's the chassis. And this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tube chassis. It looks like 11 tube chassis, which is what I thought I remembered. Interesting. It does not have an RF section. It's only a 2-gang tuner. So let me back that up, hide that away so that doesn't cause problems. Here is the far more complicated than needed tuning string arrangement. I'm going to try not to mess with that because this really doesn't need to be reworked. I'm just going to clean that up a little bit, and I'm going to leave it alone because these are a pain in the rear. Okay, so there, thankfully it does not have the swiveling ferrite antenna. That would just be another string in the way. Check out how complicated that is. Wow. I will, however, clean and lubricate everything, including this flywheel. This should turn a little more freely than it does. So I'll go ahead and take care of that. Otherwise, I'm going to pretty much leave it alone. I'm going to figure out what the heck this is all about. I don't know what that is. It might be a voltage selector for the export models. In other words, choose 240 volt or 120 volt. I don't know yet. I got to find the schematic. And by the way, the schematic is so far not available for this that I've found. So I will have to keep looking for it. All right, I also have miscellaneous bags of stuff. I baggied and labeled everything. I have both sets of speakers. There's right speaker large, left speaker large, right and left speaker side firing small, and right and left crossover networks. And then we have the plastic side grill covers for the speakers. They were in good shape. We have basically 5 pieces here. A small piece of masonite that goes in here when this right side back mounts. This is the right back. Okay. Here's the left back. And here is the center back. Okay, so I'm sorry, there were 4 pieces, not 5. I think I said 5. So we'll go ahead and keep those nice. So that's the inventory. 1 chassis, 4 pieces of masonite, 1 set of side firing grills in good shape, 1 full set of speakers including a large and a small and a crossover for each channel, and a bunch of baggies. And I won't be starting on this for a couple of weeks, so that's why I needed to have this little inventory, so I remembered exactly what it was I had. I'll put all this stuff in a box later today and put it on my shelf to get ready to work on. At this point, I've just about finished this Grundig. I'm a little behind on the videos, and I started this thing about a week ago while I was tidying up some things on that Zenith I just finished up. So I made good progress on the Grundig. It was actually not as bad as I thought it would be, and it's sounding pretty good. I'll be posting those videos here as I get them edited over the next few days. So be watching. I'll probably have this series wrapped up and out to you guys probably this week sometime. All right, from Michael. All right, this is Michael from your Western Outpost in Salt Lake City. It's a Monday afternoon, March 6th. That's all for now.